Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Meet Addy. Chapter 2, Sold. Early the next morning, Addy was in the tobacco field worming the plants. She and other children moved from row to row, carefully pulling green, wiggling worms from the leaves. The worms were as fat as her fingers, but Addy tried not to think about them. Instead, she dreamed about the kind of freedom Mama and Papa had talked about the night before, the kind slaves ran away for. She saw herself learning to read and write. First, she'd write the names of everyone in her family. She saw herself wearing fancy dresses with lace, nothing like the rough cotton shift she always wore now. Papa would get paid for his work and buy so much food they would never be hungry. He would buy cloth for her fancy dresses and Mama would make them for her. By 11 o'clock, the sun was overhead, and Addy felt as if she worked all day. She had just finished warming her rows when it was time for her next chore, taking water to the field hands. The full bucket of water she carried almost pulled her arm from her shoulder. As Addy struggled with the bucket, she ran down from her dark face and soaked the neck of her shift. But she liked the chore because she sometimes had a chance to see Sam or Papa. On this day she saw Sam. As usual, he had a riddle for her. "Riddle me this," said Sam. "What's smaller than a dog but can put a bear on the run?" Addy thought hard as Sam took the dipper from the bucket and poured some water over his head. From a few rows away, the overseer snarled, "That water's for drinking, boy." Addy saw a scowl come over Sam's face. He mumbled, "Even a horse gotta stop and cool off sometime." "I better get on," Addy said, worried that the overseer might come over to them. He carried a whip. "Nah," said Sam, his face softening. He was as tall as Papa, but he was skinny. When he smiled, Sam still looked like a little boy. "I ain't done drinking yet, and you ain't answered my riddle. What's smaller than a dog but can put a bear on the run?" he repeated. He took a drink while Addy thought. She looked up to see where the overseer was. He had gone off in another direction. Addy crinkled up her eyebrows and said, "A skunk?" "You right. I don't know about you. You too smart for me, girl. Pretty soon you're going to be riddling me," Sam said. "Real soon," said Addy, smiling at her brother. Addy wanted to tell Sam what she had heard their parents talk about the night before, but escape plan was so daring and dangerous she couldn't share it with anyone, not even her brother. If her parents had wanted her and Sam to know, they would have told them. So Addy kept the secret inside and moved down the road to give the next field hand a drink. When the bucket was empty, she headed toward the kitchen to help Auntie Lula serve dinner to Master Stevens. The kitchen was a small brick building behind the house. Addy hurried there, afraid she might be late. Auntie Lula was ready for Addy to work as soon as she stepped in the building. "Wash your hands good," she said, "and take that tray of food and water to the dining room." "Yes, ma'am," Addy answered. She liked Auntie Lula. She was an old woman, old enough to be Addy's grandmother. Her skin was light and her rusty red hair was streaked with gray. She had a soft, open face, but sharp green eyes that could see right through you. Auntie Lula looked after Addy and her family. She gave them medicine when they were sick. One Christmas, she had made rock candy for Addy and Sam. The dinner Auntie Lula had cooked for Master Stevens smelled so good. Addy ached for a bite of it. All she had for breakfast was cornmeal mush, and that was all she would have for dinner. Maybe Auntie Lula would hide away a few scraps for Addy to eat today. Addy washed and dried her hands, and then picked up the tray and hurried to the dining room. Master Stevens was sitting at the table talking with another white man, someone Addy had never seen before. She set the food on the table and then poured the water for both men. As they began to eat, she took her place standing quietly in the corner. "You got that little girl trained real good," the man said to Master Stevens. "She looks like a smart one." "I got 'em all trained real good," said Master Stevens. "That's why it's such a shame to let any of them go." Addy's stomach turned when she heard Master Stevens say those words. Let any of them go, she thought. What does he mean, let go? "But I have 22 slaves to clothe and feed this winter," Master Stevens said, "and you know how hard it is with this war. I need the money." Addie stared at the floor, but she was listening closely. She let her face go blank and empty. "This boy you got for me," said the man. "How can I sure he won't run on me too? I know he's run before. I taught him a lesson with the whip last time he ran off. You'll have his father. His father can control him." They were talking about selling Sam and Poppa. Addie just knew they were. Her father had been right. Master Stevens was going to split up their family. "Hey girl, get more water," the strange man said, turning to Addie. Addie hurried to pour him more water. "You're sure you don't want to part with this one?" the man asked Master Stevens, patting Addie on the head. Addie's hand shook. She wanted to pull away from his touch, to scream, but the blank look was frozen on her face. She filled the man's glass and started to pour water for Mr. Stevens. "I'm not going to sell her," Master Steve replied, "but I know the price for good house servants is going up every day. Maybe when she's a little older, I'll let her go too. But then she might fetch a price as good as her brother. She's just too young now." Addie was listening hard. She forgot to pay attention to the task and filled Master Stevens' glass too full. Water spilled on the table. "See, I told you this one's too young," Master Stevens said to the man. To Addie, he said sharply, "Girl, get a rag and clean up this mess." "Yes, sir," Addie said. She was glad to have a reason to run back into the kitchen. She burst through the door. "Auntie Lula," she panted, "that man fixing to take Sam and Poppa with him. Master Stevens gonna sell them." Auntie Lula looked worried, but then she spoke. Her face was calm. "If that be true, we don't have much time," Auntie Lula said. "Listen to me now. Take your bucket and run to the well. Fill the bucket and head to the fields where your brother and father are at." "But I already took the water," Addie said. "Hush up, child," Auntie Lula hissed. "You a smart girl. Act like you think it's time for the afternoon water. Walk right out to Sam and your papa and tell them what you heard. If that man will really come for them, it's the one chest they got to run. I'll come back for the dining room. Now you get." Grabbing her bucket, Addie ran to the well. She ran as fast as she could, her bare feet kicking up little puffs of dust, her thick braid beating against her shoulders. "Please don't let them take Sam and Poppa. Please, God," she prayed silently as she ran. When Addie came to the well, she filled her bucket. She tried to run with it, but the water splashed crazily over the sides. With less than half of it left, she headed for the fields, walking as fast as she could. Her throat was dry. "Sam, Poppa, where you at?" she screamed inside. Outside, her eyes desperately searching for the huge field. Addie was looking for Sam and Poppa and didn't see the overseer until he stepped right into her path. "Hey, girl," he barked at her. "What do you think you're doing?" Addie was so startled she dropped her bucket. I come to bring the afternoon water," she said. "It ain't time for the afternoon water, you stupid girl. Get out of here." I thought it was," Addie stammered. "Don't give me back talk," the overseer snarled. Addie felt frantic, but she said nothing more. She picked up her bucket and ran to the kitchen. When she got there, she saw her mother and baby Esther with Auntie Lula. Addie rushed to Mom and threw her arms around her. "Mama, they selling Sam and Poppa. I tried to warn them, Mama, I tried," she cried, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. "I know you did," her mother said softly. "Auntie Lula told me." "Master Stevens said that man headed for the barn," Auntie Lula interrupted. "Maybe they got your Sam and Poppa there." Addie's head jerked up. Maybe there was one last chance. Maybe she could still warn Sam and Poppa. Addie raced out the door and headed for the barn. "Addie!" Mama cried. "Wait!" But Addie did not stop. She was not thinking, not praying, just running. When she came to the field, she saw a wagon. Sam was in it, bound and gagged, shackled hand and foot. Master Stevens, the man from the dining room, and two other white men as big as Poppa were standing next to the wagon. "Sam!" Addie cried when she reached the wagon. "Oh, please, Master Stevens," Addie begged. Don't let them take Sam." "Get out of here, Addie," Master Stevens ordered. He had a whip in his hand. Addie stopped where she was. Then she heard a deeper voice. "Addie, go now." It was her father's voice, but where was he? She looked down and then saw him lying on the ground being chained by the overseer. Papa's face was covered with dirt, but it was calm. She ran to him, falling on the ground next to him. "Oh no, Papa, no!" She threw her arms around him. He looked up at Addy. Everything's gonna be fine, honey. Everything's gonna be alright, honey. You go on." There was no tears on his face, but Addy knew he was crying inside. "Get back, girl," Master Stevens barked. Addy heard his whip crack. She felt a lash of fire on her back as if she had been burned, but she still held on to Papa. Master Stevens growled at her. "I told you to get. Now get back before I'll whip you again." He reached for Addy and yanked away from Papa. Addy fell backwards into her mother's arms. Mama held Addy close, both of them crying. This time, even Mama couldn't help keep the pain inside. That's the end of that chapter, and I'll see you later.